look at this gorgeous set of decorator puzzle blocks. These are fabulous and they can be reconfigured in a number of different patterns and combinations so that you have a really versatile decorative piece for your beachy home decor. People are looking for granny crafts, things that don't take 5 minutes to do, that are intentional, give them creative license, take a few days to work on, and some versatility. Well, this project is perfect for that, for a rainy day, or crafting with the kids. Let's make some blocks. They're nothing super duper special. They're a 3-inch square block. Just one of the prettiest stamp sets I have ever seen. You guys know, if you've been watching my channel, I love doing coastal crafty stuff. A lot of the time it involves shells, but it doesn't always have to. For example, you can do a shell themed project without gluing a single seashell onto anything. These little blocks are just so fabulous. They're so fun. They're just, you can just recombine them on your shelf every day if you want to change the look up a little bit. And I had a really good time making these. This is a perfect craft for a rainy day where you can't go to the beach. If you're looking for something to keep the kids or grandkids busy on summer vacation, or if you decided you just need a refresh in your space, these little blocks are a super fun and really not difficult project that almost anybody can accomplish as long as you have the right tools and equipment. Now, a novice can accomplish this project completely fine. There's no gluing, no cutting, no extra reel involved. The only thing that would be slightly more advanced would probably be the cutting machine part of it. However, I've gone ahead and made a SVG file, if you do have a Cricut or a Brother Scan and Cut or a Silhouette, where you can download the file for the text that'll cut these little letters out. If you don't have a cutting machine, though, what you can do is go to the scrapbook section of your craft store and find some letter stickers and use those. That'll work for this project just fine, too. So let's talk about your supplies and get those rounded up. Here's the tools and supplies list that you're going to need for this project, and we'll go through a few of these tools and supplies a little more closely too, so you know what it is that you need to get. Go ahead and just pause the video and take a picture of this, screen capture it, so that you have it with you when you go to your craft room or to the craft store. In the tools department, you're going to need some paintbrushes of varying sizes, and I'm going to show you the two different styles of paintbrushes that I used, a regular style and a stencil brush. The stencil or stippling brush will give us that antiquing on our corners. I also have a cutting machine and mat, some transfer tape, and a little scraper and weeding tool. Those are pretty typical tools if you do have a cutting machine like a Cricut, a Brother Scan and Cut, or a Silhouette machine. A clear acrylic block for stamping. It's 6 by 6 and almost an inch thick with a grid on it, mine is. And you can find these in the stamping section of the craft store. They have them at both Michael's and Hobby Lobby. Additionally, you might want another smaller stamping block for doing the just the individual blocks and not try to use a big 6 by 6 on the 3 by 3 block. But that is completely optional. You don't have to worry so much about that. I also protect my work surface with a silicone mat, and I had some paper towels and a foam sanding block at the ready. Now for supplies, you're going to need 4 to 6, if you want to do a couple extra, of the wooden blocks, 3-inch by 3-inch. 6 different colors of acrylic paints, and make sure they're matte finish. Permanent or removable vinyl in a contrasting color, or like I said, letter stickers will work. And then a color to distress the edges of your blocks. Now, I used a brown acrylic paint, but you can go ahead and use antiquing wax or whatever it is that you're comfortable with. You also want a good permanent ink like archival, or I recommend Staz-On. Staz-On Ink's been around forever. The most permanent black ink ever made. It's amazing, and it's a solvent-based ink, so it dries really quickly and it will not smudge or smear. And then, of course, some clear rubber stamps. I use the ones from Iron Orchid Designs. That's their Seahorse set, their Seahorse collection, and I'll give you a preview of those once we get a little farther in, but they're stunning. All these products are things that I had in my craft room, and I have not received any product or sponsorship from any of these manufacturers for this project. So just letting you know, I use it, because I like it. The wooden blocks can easily be bought online. They're a 3x3 square wooden block, or if you have a husband who's good with wood shop kind of stuff, you can have him make you a set of these 3x3 wooden blocks. Just make sure they're as square as you can possibly get them. I have a crafty guy, but we don't have any 3x3 wooden posts or wood scraps. So I bought my blocks online in the interest of time.
Good old Amazon, you can find just about anything here. Now, watch the size and make sure you're getting the 3x3 because there are 1x1 blocks, but we don't want to do that many little pieces. We're going for the 3x3 here. You will see that there are sets of 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There's all different combinations. The set we're working on is a set of 4. I bought a 6-pack, but if you actually like doing this, then having the 12-pack would allow you some extra blocks to make some gifts with too.
So let's take a little closer look at what we're making, and I'll explain how the puzzle block aspect of this works.
So what I did here was I cut out 4 different little phrases. Remember, your blocks are going to have 2 of their 6 sides that are going to be dominated by the big one that goes together. In this case, the large conch or the seahorse pieces. So 2 of those 6 sides are tied up with that, and that's what they're going to be dedicated to.
All right, so your cube has 6 sides. 2 of the sides are going to be used for the bigger montage patterns. The large conch, and then the seahorse assembly where you've got like 3 seahorses and the little core on that. So there's 2 sides knocked out. Third side is for your phrase. There's 3 sides knocked out. Your remaining 3 sides are going to be used for different arrangements of the stamps. And you want to try to be sure not to use the same stamp on the same paint color, which gives you that random effect and allows you to flip them around and change your display often, basically. Be sure to check the link in the description for this video because there will be a link to a free SVG file download with those little phrases on there. The only font that I could not re-find was the one that says relax and enjoy, so I came up with a suitable handwritten looking font that would go well with it.
I just use a simple font. I believe it's called, it's either called Anton or Impact. It's one of those 2. This one's we've got Shell Lover, Sea, Salt, Sand, Sky, Beach, Please, or Relax, Enjoy. And you can use any of the fonts that you have. You don't have to use these ones. This will come out equally good in different colors with different fonts, anything that you want to do. What I'm going to show you here is kind of how these work. And they aren't stamped perfectly, which is kind of part of the charm. You don't want them to look perfect. You want them to look like they've, been around a while and kind of rustic looking. At least that was the vibe I was going for. And you're stamping with everything on one large 6x6 block. You'll notice that these aren't perfect, like micro perfect. There's a little bit of difference on each of these blocks, which changed the pressure, which changed how much the stamp picked up. I had them equally inked, but not every section of these big montages laid down perfectly, which is kind of the fun part. Now, I'm just gonna redo this and make this shell. Just kind of show you that one, how that worked. And then all these blocks are different all over the place. And that's the point of them, is to try to not have the same motif. On 4 of the sides that are the same color, you want something different. So that if you wanted to put just one color up, you still have the variety, right? So everything is different among the colors. Like on this is the darker of the blues. And you can see, like, and this is on purpose. I tried not to put the same design on the same color sides because that gives you like infinitely more possibilities. They're all a little bit different in that respect. Let's say I wanted to just have all my phrases showing. I could do that. let's say I want 1 phrase and 3 groups of shells. Let's see, where I can use a seahorse's head. I don't even have to use the whole picture there. So there's lots of different ways that you can fool with these. But remember that you're going to want to paint the same 6 colors on them. Doesn't really matter what order that you paint them. I mean, they're blocks, right? So you can paint whatever order that you want to. What matters is when you go to stamp them and put the phrases on them. The first thing you do is imagine that, like, and I use the light side and I use that light seafoamy green. I didn't want one big picture in the tan and one in the white. I thought they were too close to each other doing that. Let's see how that goes. So you're going to take, after you paint these, and set aside 2 colors that are meant for these big area stamps. And the rest is a free-for-all, just making sure you don't match stuff on the same color. In hindsight, I might have made this color a little bit dark because it doesn't really show great on camera. So that's the only thing I would suggest, is try not to use colors that are too dark. Now, a workaround for that would be to stamp the designs in a different kind of Staz-On ink, because Staz-On doesn't just make black. They also make silver and gold and a white. So if you needed that high contrast, that high impact on a darker color for your set, those things are available online. It's a little trickier to find colored Staz-On in the craft store. It's kind of Staz-On is sort of like a niche rather than an industry standard on anything, but it's such great permanent ink. You can stamp on fabric with it, put it through the wash, get it wet, nothing happens to it.
Staz-On ink has been around for a really long time, but it's not like other inks. It is a solvent-based ink, which means it dries super fast. It's not like a pigment-based ink, which is sort of like acrylic, or a dye-based ink, which is sort of like a watercolor almost. And it's not like Distress Oxide either, which has a see-through quality to it as well. The black, the white, the gold, the silver, the platinum, these are truly opaque, and they do stand out nicely on the dark colors when you use the metallics.
It's truly permanent. So if this is anywhere where little kids might be grabbing it, that nice permanent ink will keep from getting smeared around, whereas pigment ink will lay on top of it, and it'll take longer to dry. You could put embossing powder over the top of it to kind of seal it a little bit. That is taking an extra step, but that is a possibility. So if you're an experienced stamper and you already have those supplies, but that is a little outside of the scope of this project. Let's go back to here, and you can see they're not stamped perfectly, and that's kind of on purpose. Like, I didn't want them perfect. If I want perfect, I'll go to the store and buy something, and I don't want that. Look, that's not what I'm going for. So I intentionally didn't stamp them perfectly, if that makes sense. I don't know, it just adds to their kind of ruggedy, rusticy kind of feel to me. These are wooden blocks, and yes, I have multiple layers of paint on them, which kind of helps smooth them out, but yours may or may not come perfect, especially if you're making them from wood offcuts that you have there at the house. Now, to make it the puzzle, you need them to be square, but there's nothing stopping you from doing this with different sized blocks, not making them particularly a puzzle that has to go together or anything, just using different sized blocks. But I wanted specifically 3x3 because my stamps are big, and I wanted that big conch shell. I just love that big conch shell. What a beautiful stamp. Oh my gosh, that is just, I love it. So to work on something with that big of a stamp, my clear acrylic block is 6x6 inches. My stamp just fits it. It just fits over the dimensions of block, so that kind of made lining it up sort of easy and fun. You will need the bigger stamping block, especially if you're using these IOD stamps. They're a lot bigger.
And for this project, clear stamps are the way to go here, so that you can see through your acrylic block and the stamp and make sure you're hitting exactly where you need to on your blocks. That's really tricky to do with wood-mounted stamps. It's a lot easier to handle with the clear stamps that are mounted on a clear acrylic block.
Now I'm going to just show you these IOD stamps. This is what the Iron Orchid Designs stamp sets look like. And that's not the price I paid for it. That's what they were, like their full price was listed at, but I got a crazy deal online on them. I didn't pay anywhere near that much. I would have anyway, because this stamp set is so versatile and so gorgeous. All right, so let's look at the back of the package to give you a really nice idea of what these look like. I'm just gonna slide this out of the plastic. Just so you can kind of see that vintagey vibe that they have on this set. How beautiful. Just one of the prettiest stamp sets I have ever seen. And just show you. Now, these come in two 12 by 12 sheets. As you can see, I lay them on here individually. You can see what the design looks like. But here's the other cool part of this. This side is printed, so you know where to put the stamp back, and you know exactly what it's going to look like. Watch what I mean. This is your little protector sheet. Keeps everything nice and protected in here. Now watch when I peel this off of here. Ta-da! That's the picture on the stamp. See, the stamp is just clear. And I've used these a number of times, so my blue ink has sort of stained them a little bit because I've used the heck out of these. I just love them. But yeah, this shows you where to put them back on the sheet so everything fits, obviously. But also shows you exactly what it looks like. Now, when you're peeling larger stamps like this off the plastic, I haven't even used the Sea Star, so this is the first peel off the plastic. Take your time and go easy. These things are not made out of metal. They're a clear acrylic kind of polymer thing. And you can destroy your stamps if you're not careful when you do that first peel. And like easily rip an arm off of a starfish. There. Now you get the idea. And I'll just kind of show you, like, that's how thick they are. So that, just kind of as a tip when you're using these sorts of stamps. Now, how did this go on here? There we go. And watch, when you go to put them back on, I kind of let the middle stick and then work my way out, sort of. So that everything clings and I can see the design neat and everything. So the ones from this sheet, you can tell are the ones I used. I got the seahorses all over here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seahorses in this set. They're all a little different. They're all stunning. I use these 2 bigger ones and one of the little ones there up in the middle between the 2 blocks. I also use that sand dollar. This little cockle shell, which is kind of in the wrong spot. There it goes. And these turrets here. I used quite a few things off of here. But you can see, you don't even have to use the ones I used. If you didn't like the big conch, you can use the starfish or the big scallop or this big turret. Like, so that's just one of the sheets. And then the other one, get this layer off of here. There's where the big conch is, right here. That one there. And then I have multiple pieces that you can build a coral reef out of with that. And of course there's a rock snail here, and there's another small scallop, another small, one of the sand dollars, and some spindles. Like, there's all kinds of neat stuff on here. These are fun. This, if you stamp this next to each other, will make it look like you have coral reef, which is really cool. Now, in this set also, there is a set of masks. If you've ever stamped with masks, I haven't done a whole lot with that, but I don't know if you can see the shape. Might be easier on a colored background, maybe. Yeah. Not so much. And we're not going to use these really for this project, but just know that they're in there. And what the stamps masks do is, if you've already stamped something and you want to go over it, but you don't want to go over this directly, the piece that pops out, you lay that over where you stamped, and then you can stamp other things that overlap it, but it won't blot out your original design. So that's kind of fun if you're into cool stamping tools. It's really nice that this set comes with that. Just thought I'd show you those because obsessed, in love with these. They're gorgeous. But for purposes of today's project, we really won't be needing that. I didn't need to use those, but I may later if I want to make, you know, cards, scrapbook, paper, or embellishments, anything like that out of it. So having a nice big versatile set of stamps for a project like this, you will get use out of it for other projects. I already have. I've already made myself a little bag for taking to the beach, and I've got to pick up an apron so I can get my work apron done with these also. Yeah, and I've made these blocks. I've already made some scrapbook elements with them. I mean, just a great set of stamps. So you want to go online and look for Iron Orchid Designs Seashore. That is the name of this set. And it's going to vary all over the place in price based on where you find it. So
you can see on Etsy, somebody's got this set going for like $55, $60. And somebody else here has the same set on Etsy for $35.95. So you're going to want to look around a little bit. $60 is roughly what they go for, but I got mine on sale for like $25, which I thought was an incredibly good deal. And I bought them months ago before I'm shooting this video, so I'm not really sure where you'll be able to find them exactly, but go ahead and do some price comparisons. Oh, here we go. South Bank Gift Company. That's only $19.50, and that's even less than I paid. So there are deals to be had on these stamps, and I have gotten quite a bit of use out of them already. I'm definitely getting my money's worth out of these, and you can definitely find a deal if you just look for them.
Let's talk brushes for a second. Now, this is a 3/4 inch brush, and this is what I used for painting the blocks. When you get this brush loaded, it's easy to get a nice straight across line, especially to keep bristles from going over the edge. It's harder to do with the bristles dry to show you that because I don't have any paint on it, but yeah, this is this is a 3/4 and I have a 1/2 inch one. They work great for painting the actual blocks themselves. Now, for the antiquing, this is where you need something slightly more special. These are called stenciling brushes, and I've got 3 different sizes here. I'm pretty sure this is the one I used. Seemed like it was the right size without too much paint on it, so it was easy to keep control while still getting something done without feeling like it was going to take forever using this. Difference is these are a stiff bristle. Can you hear that? These are different. They're less stiff. They're a lot more supple. But these, you want that stiffness to hold up when you're doing this. And these are not expensive brushes. Got them at Hobby Lobby for less than $4 and a set of 6, and it gave me 2 of each size. So that's what I use for doing these edges. If you are more comfortable working with a sponge, you can do that instead. But I just like that really irregular effect that I was getting with them, especially on the different wood grain sections of the blocks. Like, it comes out different on these cut sides than it does on the smoother sides. So these were pretty great. I have a wooden block set. That's what these guys look like. They came just from Amazon. They're nothing super duper special. They're a 3-inch square block. If you drop them a couple of times, they get a little irregular on the corners. They may come that way a little bit. I didn't really need them to be perfect. I sort of didn't want them to be. If yours are super perfect and you want to scuff them up before or after, there's a foam sanding block, especially if you want to like knock the corners back just a little bit, because the corners are pretty precise on them. And you can see the wood grain runs this way, right? So 4 sides are going to have that the same way. And then you have 2 sides, which are your cut sides. And these guys are going to be a little rough. These blocks have already been sanded, and you're going to be putting a number of layers of paint on them, so it will smooth them out a little bit too. But just know that if you're going to make something like this with lumber offcuts at home, you will probably have to do some pretty decent sanding on the ends, because you can still see the saw grain in there, kind of. Here are the colors we used. One side I went with white, just plain old white paint, white acrylic paint. Now all of these are a matte finish. I didn't want anything glossy, and that was because I didn't want them reflective. So I used white in this bottle. I didn't even take the plastic off the top, I just untwisted it. So that is Craft Smart paint. I forget where that one's from. It might be Walmart, might be Michael's. Not really positive. These folk art matte ones and the folk art home decor are the other colors I used. 2 of them are chalk paints. I had chalk paint in patina and vintage teal. And then I had ocean cruise, linen, and Dutch aqua. Now, I also sort of mixed my paints up a little bit. These are pretty close to each other, these guys here. So I deepened this one up a little bit with a smidge of this color here. So you can, you can purchase some paint ready to go in 6 colors perfectly, or you can mix them a little bit. Now the vintage teal, I didn't feel was dark enough either. And I ended up darkening it with a little bit of black. So you can do that, or you can add white to things. But those are the colors I used, and I mixed them up a little bit. Something handy to have if you're not sure you're going to get all your painting done are these little, they're like, dressing condiment containers. Hobby Lobby sells these over in their party department. And these keep stuff locked up and airtight. And you can see my paint is still very fluid in there, still usable, still can totally do whatever with it. So I used all of my colors. I put them all in these little things with click tops, because when I was painting these, I had a couple of different projects on the go. I'd paint and let dry, go work on something else. Paint and let dry, go work on something else. Also, these blocks really drink this paint up. And I ended up doing 3 layers on each color of each block. So I did the painting over a course of a couple of days. And because I had custom mixed colors, particularly making that darker one out of the vintage teal, which would otherwise be like much lighter, it was very helpful for me to be able to lock the paint up, make sure it was sealed, and then be able to go back and work with it the next day. The blocks painted. I got these 3x3x3 cubes. They came from Amazon. I have one painted in like a French white, but I'm not sure if I still have that color. So there's 4 blocks. Pick up this mess I got in here. Good gracious. Can't even think straight. It's so messy in here. That's what happens when I get on a tear, man. I've got quadruple the work surface that I used to have. I just make that much more of a mess. Legitimately the most beautiful stamp set I've ever owned. So these are what you call a clear acrylic stamp. And you use a clear acrylic mounting block like this one here. And conveniently, this one has a nice grid, and it happens to be 6x6. So I can center my stamp nicely on here to have it however I want it across the face. You don't have to do 4 blocks. You could do this with 3. You can do it with 2. You can do just 1. Use smaller little stamps if you want to. So no right, wrong sort of on this. This is a whatever fits your place. And maybe these big vintage things don't suit your vibe. But here at the Beach Cottage Double Wide, Our style is beach cottage grandma chic. So that's what we're going for today. I am going to be setting these on my shelf, and while I will be sealing them, I want to use something that's permanent, and that is what this is. Staz-On Jet Black. This stamp pad I've had for a long time. I have a re-inker for it so that I can re-ink the stamp pad itself and juicy it up a little bit. You know, solvent inks are very permanent, and they do get on stuff, so you got to be careful with them. It also has this little tray inside to keep that ink from drying out. But there you go. And the last time I re-inked it, this thing was really kind of dry, so we'll see how that goes. I'm going to be doing another project a little later this summer with this set. We're going to try our hand at some scrapbook accessories to make your own shell memory book. And we'll be featuring these stamps again heavily in that video. More beach-themed fun. It doesn't always have to be made out of shells. Sometimes it can be made out of stamps and wood and paint. Because, you know, I'm ADHD. I have to do 30 crafts. I'm going to paint these blocks. And while I'm doing that, I got to go charge my phone. I'm back to my overhead little arrangement here with my cell phone in my ring light. Just kind of show you my... It's called a canvas light, and I love this thing. I've had it for a couple of years. It's amazing. And that magnet there holds the magnet mount on the back of the phone. Anyway, my phone is about to die, so I'm going to go charge my phone and paint these blocks, and we'll come back. So we're back to paint some more, day 2. I had to let everything dry, so I have one face on each block, right, that hasn't been painted yet. And of course, this one, which was French white anyway, that's not the wood, that's the khaki. See? It may not show well on camera. My eye can see it, but... All right, so I thinned the paint down a little because it was awfully thick. And what that resulted in is I'm going to have to do another coat. And I also got some paint from other color on here, too. So they needed a second coat anyway, especially that khaki. I mean, gosh, you can see right through that. And I want them to... I don't want like a whitewash effect. I want them actually painted. So I'm going to leave my unpainted face unpainted still. And put the second coats for all these other colors. Now, I had put them in these little takeout cups with lids so that my paint wouldn't dry out. Got some rinse water over here. I'm not going to paint the white just yet. That's interesting too that I had mixed a couple of paints to, like for this color here, I mixed a little black in there to darken that color to that. And they separated while it was sitting, which is interesting. But, you know, chalk paint does do that. So let's start with my lightest color first. And we'll do some more painting. Not that I need to teach anybody how to paint. I just more or less want you to see. Now, I don't know if you can see that. This block had wood filler. And it showed up two-tone with that light first color. Or first coat, should I say. So I'm just going over with a second coat. And I don't want to drag it over the edge, which unfortunately I did, but I'm going to be painting that one too, so doesn't matter, I guess. Yeah, there's some more wood filler on that block here. You can see it unpainted. And you can see with the paint on it, it sort of covers it, but you can still tell, so maybe. Hopefully I don't have to do 3 coats. If I do, I will.
Now, just so you know, and full disclosure, this took a couple of days. This took me like 3 days to get these fully painted. Now, I wasn't working on it continually nonstop. I did have some other things going on in there, which gave me the opportunity to let these different coatings of paint dry in between. And with it being what I would call slow crafting, I'm not looking to speed through this. I'm not in a rush. It's okay to let stuff dry. Chalk paint doesn't even really take that long to dry. If you put a fan on it, it actually goes quickly. But there's no need to watch me put 3 coats of 6 colors on 4 different blocks. So I'm just giving you the idea here. You see what it is that I'm doing. I'm going ahead and painting all of these in these colors, and the chalk paint will darken actually once it's dry, so it looks lighter when applied, but it doesn't come out that light. It actually dries darker. So just keep that in mind.
Those guys are still drying. There's some wet paint still on that. I'm on my 3rd painting session with these. So meantime, I've been stamping out some different little arrangements here to see what was going to work design-wise on them. And I made these papers squares 7x7. My surface area I'm working with is 6x6, obviously. 2 3-inch blocks. So what I did was just start laying out the patterns and seeing what things sort of look like. I want to take 4 of the 6 sides on each and put an individual shell on them or something. But 2 of them I want to be where you see the whole design. I got 3 mocked up, but I'm not loving the Triton one. This is just, I don't know, it's too plain. I love this, but I think I'd like it with a little bit more of the coral in there. So I'm going to stamp that over here. And all that conch, that's fantastic. Just love that. But what I was trying to do is make sure that I've got, you know, clearance on either side so that I'm sure things will fit before I start stamping on the blocks. And so far, I'm fairly pleased with that. I like those 2 the best.
And again, this part of the process took me a couple of days. It's not that the chalk paint takes forever to dry. It's more that you have to let some of it dry so that you can hold it and paint other surfaces and still have a place to set it down. So that adds a little bit of time to it. And as I did mention before, I was working on other projects. I wasn't working solely on this one. So I probably could have knocked this out in 2 days instead of 3. Would have been fine, no problem. But this isn't about fast crafting, right? This is Grannycrafts. This is intentional and slow, and enjoy the process. So we finish up the painting, and now let's come back and do some of the antiquing, which is the fun part.
Stuff is dry, and now I'm going to do some antiquing along the edges, okay? Give us this worn kind of effect. Now, I have a set of 6 of these brushes. They're called stenciling brushes, round stenciling brushes. But they have a stiffer bristle, which makes it nice for doing this technique. So we're going to real quickly on the corners and sort of just gently streak a little bit of stuff in there. We don't want the brush overloaded. We just want a little bit on there. See how that's going? And to add paint, I've got just the littlest bit on this little tray here. So I tap some into the bristles, and I tap the too much out. So I have a kind of a dry paint situation here sort of going. It's not supposed to look perfect. And when we do this kind of beachy, cottage, shabby, chic stuff, it's not supposed to be perfect. That's the point. So what we're trying to do is age it, make it look old. And of course, a nice little side benefit of doing this is if you've had any paint overage over here on your blocks anywhere, this will help cover that up without you having to paint over things 4 million times. Ta-da!
And we're going to speed this antiquing process up a little bit too. Now that you saw exactly what I was doing, loading the brush, offloading any excess, and doing a very quick movement back and forth on the corners. Now, like I said, this serves two purposes. Number one, it gives us that antiquing, but it also covers up any paint overage when you're painting the faces of the blocks. It kind of disguises and hides that too, which is great if you're not the most accurate painter in the world, which I don't claim I am. I'm really not. So, but yeah, that's the stiffness of the bristles is what allows for this to happen. Now, you could do this with a makeup sponge if you're not comfortable working with the brush, but truth be told, I'm more comfortable working with the brush than with a sponge. But just know that there's more than one way here that you could do it. You could use a little makeup sponge or what they call stamping blenders or anything along those lines. What I really was going for, though, was that antiquing wax look without using the wax. What I was doing it with was paint, and I wanted that irregular brush stroke and not everything looks the same on every face, dry brush kind of effect. That's what I was actually going for. So I'm just going to speed through this. You guys get the idea what it is I'm doing. You see that quick hand motion back and forth of how I'm applying that color on the edges, and the stiff brush that's semi-dry makes all the difference in how it comes out. I fired up my brother's scan and cut software, made those phrases, and I had like an extra one or two that I had put in there because I wasn't sure which ones I was going to like the best. But the machine's doing its thing. It's cutting out the little phrases on this white vinyl that's kind of like a opalescent glittery vinyl. You can buy it by the sheet at Hobby Lobby, and it's made by 405, I think is the name of the company. The same folks that have that produced that little scraper tool that I was using. You can find this in their vinyl section, usually in a rack at the end of the aisle. So now it's time to talk about some stamping. Actually, I'm reshooting this because my footage got damaged. There was a little power fluctuation, and all this stamping stuff that I shot earlier, I can't open the file. So it just so happened I had two more blocks. I already went ahead and did all the painting on them, as you can see, the antiquing and everything. And right now what I'm going to do is stamp them. So I have that big 6x6 block here. And you can see I've got a long shell right here on this side. And then I've got two seahorses over on this side. I actually think I might move that big seahorse over just a little bit, so that I know it's going to fit well on the blocks. Now remember, because I'm working on 3x3 blocks and my acrylic block is 6 inches by 6 inches, then I can set this up on these three with something, and something on this side with these 3 inches, and I can actually stamp this, then I can ink and stamp that on the seafoam green color. So then I have to do some of the smaller arrangements. That's where these little guys are going to come into play here, so that it's easier for me to do that. Now this block also happens to be 3 inches wide, so I can get a 3x3 design on here very easily. And then this little one I may or may not use, but there's my blocks. You see I've got them both set up on the white side. Now I did the big conch shell on this, so this here is going to be that turret shell, kind of just going straight up and down, if that makes sense. And I have my my little stamp pad right here. Now you notice I picked it up and it was upside down. That's on purpose. The way stamp pads work is if you leave them right side up, everything that's near the surface will kind of settle toward the bottom of the stamp pad.
And when you're working on something, you want it kind of juicy. Most stampers will store their pads upside down so that they're nice and juicy and ready to go when they're ready to work. I'm going to just set this here for a second. And because this is a solvent ink, there's this little tray in here that's meant to keep the ink from evaporating. Just from the lid being on, you can still evaporate inside. So this little tray, when you get a Staz-On pad, do not discard that little tray. It will keep you from, losing your ink. And when I say evaporate, your ink doesn't actually evaporate. The solvent in it that makes it liquid evaporates. That's what I mean by that. Just set that to the side. And now I'm going to just take and tap this ink, press it, whatever I got to do to ink this up and get it nice and inky. Now I can already tell by looking at this, my stamp pad looks like it's a little dry. Staz-On will do that. Now, me setting this aside for a second to do something about it is going to dry right there on the stamp if I'm not careful. Not that I care. Once Staz-On dries, it's not like it's going to mix with any other inks later. But you can take a baby wipe and kind of get some of that off of there. Just so that you don't dye your stamps. If I were to work with another Staz-On color and I re-inked it with a different color, the black that was on there could transfer. It won't happen with pigment ink really, or any of the oxides or the dyes. But yeah, I just want to get that excess, even though it's not much, off of there. Working with Staz-On solvent-based ink can be kind of tricky sticky here. On the one side, you want to get the Staz-On off of your clear stamp so that if you use other Staz-On colors that you don't get a transference of that black into, say, like a blue or a green or a yellow or something like that. On the other side of that, constantly cleaning that ink off of your clear stamps will, over time, maybe damage them. So if you have a really nice set of stamps like this, use the Staz-On, but don't continually maybe keep hammering it. If you're going to use other inks as well, you can clean those off of there easily with any kind of stamp cleaner. Staz-On is a special animal. And in this particular project, I want the Staz-On because the surfaces are going to come into contact with each other in the shelves and get handled and get worked while I'm actually creating. So because this is a nice set of stamps, I wouldn't necessarily dedicate them to just using with Staz-On. And there are other things you can do to condition your silicone stamps. You do want to wipe that cleaner off if you are using the Staz-On Sukaniko brand specific cleaner for those stamps. My baby wipes have a little bit of alcohol in them, so they're cleaning that stuff right off. But after I'm done with these, I am going to give them a Dawn dish soap wash and a good rinse and let them dry out. That is the up and the downside of using a solvent-based ink. The permanency is awesome. Having clear stamps to work with, awesome. But you have to be able to accept a little staining with it. You have to kind of be able to let that go, or you have to not use Staz-On too many times with it. And this is also how you clean them after you're done. And then I'm going to just blot it with a paper towel. Now, they make specific stamp cleaners that are meant for Staz-On, that are meant for different kinds of ink. They even make a pad with a scrubby thing in it in a little box. And you spritz stuff on it and rub your stamps on it to get those cleaned off. So, okay, I got the ink off of here, but it's not really juicy enough for a stamping. So I'm going to re-ink that pad and show you what that looks like too. There it is right there. Now, solvent ink and alcohol ink are not the same thing. They don't even smell nearly like anything. So I'm not keen on the idea of putting alcohol ink or alcohol blending solution on my Staz-On ink pad because these are not cheap ink pads. But once you have one of them, all you need to refill it is a re-inker.
Now, as you can see on the left, a Staz-On reinker will run you about $6.50. A brand new pad could be anywhere from 10 to 16, depending on where you buy it from. So it's much more economical to keep buying the reinkers rather than replace your pads. And when I say I've had my pad for a long time, it's well over 15. It's probably pushing 20 years. Like I said, Staz-On Ink has been around a long time. And I've bought a couple of reinkers for it. The reinkers last for a long time too. So well worth it.
And let's just show you what re-inking a stamp pad looks like. Kind of surprised that I have to do this because I just did this, but you just take your solvent ink and you go across the top of the pad, squeezing a little bit out. And these are not a sponge on the top. They're like a piece of fabric on the top, if that makes sense. There we go. That's all we got to do to get it nice and juicy again. So I'm going to keep this with that little lid close. The minute I'm done inking something up, I'll cover these pads up. Get my blocks in place here. Now, you take your pad. Yeah, that's a lot better. I like to apply the pad to the stamp instead of pressing my stamp into the pad. You can do whatever's most comfortable for you, but this makes less of a mess. And I speak from years of experience, so. And you'll see I'm working quickly because I don't want it to evaporate on me. And I'm gonna line that up. And now I'm gonna press. I don't want to rock back and forth, and I don't want to move the stamp, but I do want good contact, especially because these little blocks aren't exactly the same height. And I apologize that the camera's moving. Ta-da! There you go. And you can see part of this didn't really adhere well to that. That's okay. I like that vintage, not perfect kind of vibe that we've got going on here. There, getting that cleaned off. And now I just take this off of here and go ahead and dry that too. So I got the ink off of my stamp, and I'm going to go ahead and set it back on the cling. That's how these things work. They're super silicone-y smooth on the back side. That's what allows them to stick to the plastic sheets they come on and onto your cling block. And if something isn't clinging, then just clean it. You may have dust or something else on. That's why you keep your stamp, your clear stamps at least, in the packaging with their little plastic sheets, or they make a specialty binder for storing them so you can look more quickly at the stamp sets you have instead of keeping them in the package. I don't have a ton of stamps, so I'm not going to worry about that.
Pro stamping tip. If your clear acrylic stamps, your polymer stamps, whatever, if they start to get to where they don't want to stick to their carrier sheet or to your cling block, you can take an alcohol pad and just kind of wipe them a little bit, dab and wipe on the back a little bit, and that should bring the clinginess, the stickiness back into them. Just another tip for using clear stamps.
All right, keep that ready to go. All right, and this stuff dries almost immediately. Look at that. That's dry. No worries. All right, now let's find that light color. This is the one that I have the seahorses on. So I'm just going to add 2 more of those blocks to my arrangement. And we're going to do 2 big seahorses right next to each other. Again, we've got our stamp pad upside down. I'm going to put this on here so you can see it. You may not be able to see it well because the acrylic's really reflective on that ring light, but take the top and this little tray thing off of here. And let's get these juiced up. dries out so fast. You cannot waste time. And again, I'm sorry, I'm shaking the table and the camera. I'm pushing really hard at the joint where the two of them are too, to make sure everything gets some ink. And then, oh no, that's not good. All right, this is where it gets tricky. Now you gotta reline this up. I might have to stand to get this inked all the way. Really put some pressure on it. Well, it didn't work awesome on the top half. It did pretty good on the bottom, but not on the top. We may have to get some more ink on this and give it another shot. Now with a brown wood block stamp, there is no way you would ever be able to do this. To go back, ink something again, and try again. There is no way. You will never be able to line it up. But with clear block, it's a whole different world. So I'm gonna go ahead and line this little guy back up, which isn't that easy with the camera light in the way. A little high, there we go. There. So it got a little shadow on the head. And this one here isn't really, I mean, there's a lot of little missing spots. Like I said, that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. I mean, they're going on the shelf. But that looks pretty cool. So we got like a little shadow here, but it mostly hit that pretty good. And again, I don't care about it not being perfect. I don't want them perfect. I want them to look old and rustic and handmade. Some of this ink doesn't want to come off of here real easy. I have to scrub it a little bit. Let's move these. Get on the table and be able to press. Get that off and blot up the liquid. Once I dry the stamp thing off, I can peel it off of this block and wipe my block down. Dry these little guys off and put them right back on the plastic sheet. Now I have to do the other 4 sides of the block. And I didn't cut additional phrases out for these 2 blocks. I have 4 phrases already over there. I feel like that's kind of enough. All right, I'm going to switch to my smaller block now. I'm just going to make sure this is clean too. Okay. And once you get these blocks, I mean, this lasts you forever. As long as you take care of it, you won't ever really need to replace these. Even if you scratch them a little bit up or something like that, you really don't have to do anything to take care of them. They're very, very sturdy. So, let's see. Remember, I don't want 2 of the same thing on any of these same colors, right? Maybe I better grab the other blocks and see what designs are on there. So what do we have on the blue already? We have a little group of 3. We have a phrase. We have a starfish and a sand dollar. We don't have, where'd that big cockle go? I don't have that one on a blue. So we can do that. Okay, I'm just going to set these off to the side and keep them here for reference. And of course, I won't do this on both of them on blue. I have that one on a aqua already, not on that block. And I got it on the dark. And it's not on this block. So I'll do this on this blue color. And I will do it on the khaki. So I'll stamp it twice. I'll just put it on 2 different colors. Background difference. All right, time to re-ink this guy up. Again, I'm just pressing down nice and even with a good amount of pressure. I want to make sure it's inked. There we go. And that's kind of just how that stamp comes out. So we got it on the blue. Ink it back up, put it on the tan. And there. Normally when you're stamping, if you're working with a pigment or a dye ink, you really don't have to work this fast. It's just Staz-On. Staz-On requires moving with purpose because it does evaporate so quickly. But that's what makes it great for doing this kind of project, because it dries super crazy quick too. There we go. Now we have a cockle on there. So this gives you an idea of how to work not only with the clear cling stamps, but with this specialty solvent ink. And this, I'm telling you, Staz-On is amazing. It is amazing. You can do fabric with it. You can do paper with it. You can put it on painted surfaces. It's really, really cool stuff. And just so that you know, these Iron Orchid Design stamps, these IOD stamps, they are specifically made for people to do home decor stuff with. Furniture flippers love them. They're large scale. They can be used on chest of drawers and nightstands and desks. If you go to IOD's website, you'll see these large format stamps on fabric for making pillows. Up the side of a stairway, just past under where the stair treads are, going up that piece of trim. Nice big long diagonal line. I mean, they're gorgeous. They're specifically meant as interior design stamps. They're really, really cool. Love them. Beautiful. Wipe that guy off. Let's see. So I have 3 more sides to go. I got the darker aqua, and the blue. So let's put them onto the darker aqua. We'll see what we have on dark aqua already. Well, that one's a Phrase. We don't worry about that. So this one has cockle, the 3, and then the sand dollar. So what other goodies do I have? I have that lovely starfish. Let's just gently get this removed. Like I said before, you don't want to pull these off too hard to damage them or anything. So yeah, one of these guys will get a starfish. Now, we take a look at what other blocks have starfish. Tan, dark, and the blue. So that would leave the light aqua, the white, I'll put something different on this block maybe, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sides stamped already. Or 3 sides stamped already. So we're going to put starfish on this guy, on that color. Only one of them will get the starfish this time. It's just as much of a puzzle for you while you're stamping as it is to play with them on the shelf later. Tapping hard and repeatedly like that, just loading the ink up on the stamp. And let's go a little diagonal with it. Pressing hard again, making sure it's well stuck. There we go. And see how clean the stamp kind of comes off? Like that Staz-On is going on there. Because it's starting to evaporate already, it's sort of a sticky ink, if that makes sense. So I can put these guys together on that color. Right, so here's that color, aqua, already. So that would give me basically that. Okay. Again, put my done ones off to the side. I'm using them as reference, so you just keep them here until they're ready to go. All right, so you have your starfish, and you're gonna get seahorses. It's a little easier to line them up this way and just have the width properly. My gosh, these little guys are just so cute. Oh my goodness. Super cute. Back to the Staz-On. And let's do right there. Oh, that's awesome. I love these stamps. They're so beautiful. Look how beautiful this little set is. I was thinking just the 4 was going to be great, but I'm kind of loving the 6. I'm not going to lie. All right, so the aqua side is done. I need something for the other blue side on this one. Let's see what we have on our blues. We have a starfish, a sand dollar, a group of 3, a phrase, a cockle. Gee, I could put these babe on this one too. Oh, no, can't. Got it on there already. I know I don't have them on the tan, so I'm going to just, since I have them on the block, I'm just going to do that one more time. There we go. So now the only one I have left to do on this one is the dark. On this one I got to do the blue and the dark. Alright, so I used the baby seahorses. I'm just going to clean these off again. Now, baby wipes are great. They also make a spray that you can get that's specifically meant for cleaning stamps off. It's not specifically meant for Staz-On necessarily, but it is meant for the stamps to get clean. Water-based stamp cleaner. They say it smells like bubble gum, but it really doesn't. It smells like orange. Acid-free and non-toxic, so it won't hurt your stamps. Ranger Ink makes it. And you just spray your stamp with it. I love the spindle, but the spindle's too big. Well, is it? I can go diagonally with this spindle. Ooh, I might use that. And this stamp is a little big, but it will just fit going diagonally. And I can use that on both this dark and this one. What's on the dark ones? Let's take a look. Yeah, so I have a starfish, the cockle, and a grouping of 3. And I don't have anything on that dark either yet. So I'm going to put it on that, and I'm going to put it on that. And you see I'm keeping that tray right there. When I close up my ink, right after I get done inking my pad, I put it right back into that to cover it up because the solvents and the ink evaporate out. Nice. That's cool. That didn't come out quite as dark. I didn't get quite enough pressure over here. Give it another whack. Came out pretty good. This is so much fun. There we go. And you'll see a little bit of like foamy stuff kind of gets left behind here. Just blot all of that out of there. And when I'm done, they'll all get rinsed with water before I put them away. What's left to do? The dark color ones, I need something novel and different for that face. And then this block is done. And then this block is already done. Fun. All right, so I got a spindle, a cockle, a starfish. You know what? I don't have a sand dollar on this dark stuff. Let's do that. Nice big sand dollar on there. That's the sand dollar stamp. There we go. All right. Yeah, I remember way back in the day when clear stamps started being a thing, and now they're kind of like the gold standard. It's so much easier than wood block mounted stamps. You can see where you're going, easier to line things up. They really are superior. I know even a bunch of stampers who took all their old Stampin' Up stamps off their wooden blocks, trimmed them right close to the design, and made, you know, cling stamps out of their rubber block mounted, or their wooden block mounted stamps. Now, buy a wood block mounted stamp. I'll just show you what I mean here. It's on a piece of wood, right? And it's trimmed up nice and close. Not all of them are, but some of them are trimmed fairly closely. You got that little bit of sponge back there. This is a hard rubber, whereas these silicone ones are a acrylic silicone polymer or something like that. And they're softer, so they don't need that sponge. There's give in that, where this is pretty hard rubber. So I know people that have peeled all of their stamps off their wooden blocks and gotten rid of that foam just so that they can cling mount them on here and do clear. Because it's easier to line the stamp up. It's easier to see where you're stamping. And for somebody that's making cards and is doing a bunch of them at one time, knowing exactly where your stamp is, that precision, is really nice and helpful. Because some gals just make cards for gift shops. Like, they do that all day long. I had a friend of mine who did that. She'd make 100 of the same card and go stock like 5 stores with 10 different designs. I mean, that's all the girl did was make cards. All right, so if you do get a little bit of this stuff on your acrylic block, the baby wipes don't want to take it off of there because I let it dry. It was from before. So I'm just gonna clean that with the stamp cleaner. But my stamp itself is all clean. And the reason you rinse them after the fact is to get any residue from the baby wipes or any cleaning agents off of them and any dust off of them too, so that they'll be nice and sticky and ready to go back on your acrylic block. So there we have it. We now have a really cool set of blocks with something on every face that's different on every block. That will let you put the colors together as a display on your shelf. Like this. Or it'll let you go with all kinds of different look. So that will go on the shelf like that. Now we have a little collection of seahorses. How cute are these guys? Oh my gosh. Super duper fun little project.
Also, I did mention that this was going to be slightly out of order because I had to reshoot stamping on the blocks, but I did want to show you doing the transfers for the vinyl lettering on the blocks too, because I still do have that footage.
I think I actually do want to put Relax and Joy on this block. All right, so what I have here is called transfer tape. And what this does is it takes your vinyl off of the backing it comes on, sticks it to this tape, and allows you to lift it and set it on something. I don't know, do I want Relax and Joy? I kind of like this Sea Salt Sand Sky one. Oh, there's a piece there that didn't get removed. And this, by the way, is called weeding. When you cut something out on your cutting machine, like little letters, you have all these little spaces inside, and you need to pull all this extra vinyl away so that you can just transfer this design on. So you have to weed those little spaces out of there. That's what this pick is really for. But I use this thing for everything because it's great. One of the most versatile tools you can have in your craft room. Now, I'm just gonna tape the corners of this for a little quick second, just so I can get the transfer tape sort of started. Everything wants to curl, so. And this transfer tape is not a single-use thing. I used this exact same piece already. And I just stuck it back down. Peeling it back off and using it again. All right, now, before I do, I just kind of want to make sure that this is lined up straight up and down. And there we go. Because, you know, your machine cut it straight, so you want to get it on the transfer tape straight. And there's this handy little grid on the transfer tape that helps you with that too. Now I'm not going to leave this on the work surface. Once you burnish this onto your vinyl, you have to be careful peeling the vinyls backing away from the transfer tape. So like I said, I just use a little bit of tape to hold that down for a quick second. Peel those off of there. I'm going to flip this and burnish from this side as well. Alright, now it should be firmly stuck on here. And just kind of roll this back. I do a little 45-degree sort of-ish angle. And see the vinyl and not all of it sticks perfectly. So you gotta be prepared with your little weeding tool. Tap stuff down into place. And just work slow. If you rush, things definitely will not do well. Now, there's a number of different brands of transfer tape out there. This is the first time I've ever used this one. I'm not that thrilled with it, if you want to know the honest truth. Me personally, this brand 405, which they sell at Hobby Lobby, they make a great transfer tape. I really like theirs. So I just didn't have any more, and I'm using what I have. Alright, so this one already has a phrase on it. So we'll pick one of the other ones. And let's see. Maybe that phrase would look good on that color. It might look good on that blue. And I know that everything is nice and straight on my transfer tape. So all I basically have to do is sort of just get this centered side to side and up and down. Little grid lines come in really handy for that. There. And just burnish it again. And that gets it stuck to my block. And then you peel your transfer tape back. Make sure the vinyl's stuck down. And there we go. So that's how you attach the vinyl onto the blocks. We're just going to go ahead and fast forward doing that for some of the other phrases on there. And again, like I said, because I had to reshoot some of this, I had these phrases already on 4 blocks when I had to repaint and do the other 2 to show the stamping. But anyway, you get the gist of it. That's all I'm doing. Now, with the Relax and Joy specifically, when I cut those out on my machine, they weren't as one unit. They were 2 separate words. I did not find that. I thought that that worked out. So on the digital download file that I made, they are together as one little block spaced out perfectly so that you don't have to do that phrase in 2 steps. It's already kind of set up for you. All right, let's get Shell Lover now attached over to the khaki side of this block. Again, just going to hit it with the transfer tape, do some burnishing, gently peel it off of there. Use the weeding tool in case any of the letters kind of pop off of that transfer tape, and then use the grid lines to set it down onto the block, burnish it on, and you're good to go.
Well, let's take a look at the final reveal and everything all finished up on the shelves. Now, initially, like I mentioned, I only had the 4 blocks and they looked awesome. That little set looked fantastic just as a little 4-block set. But of course, I had to make 2 extra because I lost my footage for the stamping part. And now that I have an extra 2 blocks there and kind of maximized this set, I am obsessed. I'm in love with these. I play with these like multiple times a day and just switch up how it looks on the shelf. I think they are fabulous. They are such an adorable little accent in the living room. Oh, I can't say enough about those absolutely stunning Iron Orchid Designs stamps. Man, those are beautiful. I'm really pleased with how this project came out. I love the look of it. I love the versatility and how I can keep changing it around, and I think you're going to love it too. So there you have it. That's how you make a set of puzzle blocks for your shelf. And oh my gosh, aren't those stamps scrumptious? Absolutely never heard of these guys before until I went looking around online for some seashell stamps and happened to catch another project that somebody did with them, and I was like, oh my goodness, those are so me. And I've really gotten quite a bit of use out of them so far too, and I have plans for loads more stuff to do with them. I think they're absolutely exquisite, so just go ahead and look for Iron Orchid Designs stamps and you'll be able to find them online very simply. Also the Staz-On Ink, if you can't find that at your store, your normal craft store, I know you can find it on Amazon, but there's a lot of other places that sell those too. Wooden blocks will be available all over the place, so knock yourself out, have fun with this. This is a perfect project for a rainy day weekend, and easy enough that you can do it with the kids or grandkids too, and let them give you a hand and have some fun with that. And of course, once they help you with them, they're going to want to play with them all the time. I can't keep my hands off my set. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this crafty installment of Eshway Bijou. Next week, we're going to be heading back to the Shelling with Buddies series. We have the culmination of that series coming up with 3 videos, all tied to the Conchologists of America convention. I'm going to go to the Bishop Museum with John. We're going to see an amazing shell collection. I'm going to get together with Jackie from Shallow Crafters on Facebook and her husband, and we're going to go shelling at Sunset Beach in Paso Grill. And then, of course, we're going to wrap up this show with the COA Bourse, the special collectors open to the public sale that they had on that Saturday. Following that, we take John's brother shark tooth hunting for the first time. So it was just an awesome week all the way around. So we got a few more videos to come with the Shelling with Buddies series, specifically tied to COA. And I hope you really enjoy them because we sure had fun doing all that stuff. If you want to have adventures like these, then you know what you need to do. Get out there and go shelling. And next week, tune in. We'll see you once again right here from the beach with some COA Shelling with Buddies fun.